People are very unsure about the biblical timetable. They don't know where they are in the timetable scheme of the Bible. Well, this verse will solve all problems very easily. He said to them, "You're the ones who justify yourself in the sight of men." He's talking to his enemies here. "But God knows your hearts, you Pharisees," Jesus said. "For what's highly esteemed among men is often detestable in the sight of God." So God doesn't judge and assess things as people often wrongly do. Now 16, all the eights here, 16, 16. The law and the prophets, that's to say the law of Moses, first 5 books, and all the prophets and the writings of the Old Testament, in Hebrew, the Old Covenant, were proclaimed until, up to the time of John. And since that time, that's to say, since the time of John, the gospel of the kingdom of God has been preached. Isn't that brilliant? That's a definition of Christianity. The law and the prophets came to an end when John began, because John is the great introducer, herald, proclaimer of the coming Christ. And as soon as John comes on the scene, we're moving into the new covenant. That means, of course, that John and Jesus are the new covenant ministers. They're not in the Old Testament. There are schemes of theology out there which try to push John and Jesus back under the old covenant. Some even say that only Paul's latest letters are valid. Others say that Paul's letters are valid, but that the teaching of Jesus, or the gospel preaching of Jesus, is not valid. That is catastrophic. It's an absolute undermining of the integrity of the Bible. So please note carefully, the law and the prophets, Moses was until John. From that time onwards, Christianity, which has a label, the preaching of the gospel of the kingdom. That's what Christianity is. That's what we're under now, since the time of John the Baptist and Jesus and Paul and the whole of the new covenant.